What do you think about Dustin having a main event match at this upcoming All Elite Wrestling first pay-per-view against Cody?
All Elite Wrestling. I don't know a whole lot about it. I will say this. When I found out that Dustin was going to be working his brother at AEW, I became intrigued. It's something that I think it'd be a good kickoff for that company. I don't know a whole lot about what's happening between AEW and WWE, if there's heat there or what's going on. But hey, you know, watching Cody go from being a rookie in WWE to then becoming a veteran in WWE to then really taking his career to new heights on the independents after leaving WWE and then becoming a promoter himself, it's going to make for one hell of a life story once he's retired, that's for sure. I wish Cody all the best. The guy's a smart dude, and I think if he keeps his head on straight and keeps focused, I think he could be one of those guys that gives Vince a run for his money. I don't think anybody should discount Cody Rhodes.
It came out in the news this past week that you have signed with All Elite Wrestling, apparently to the biggest contract ever for an announcer.
That's what I heard. It's good. I'm very blessed, and I'm glad to be back at work. And I wanted to. Last year I got booked twice. I had a great job, made good money, and I went on the road twice. And that didn't work for me. I'm a workhorse. I'm not a show horse. So I just want to get back in the game. And when my contract ended at WWE, it just seemed logical to check the waters. And the guys at AEW were very motivated to hire me. And so it was pretty easy negotiation.
And I understand you're going to be a full-time announcer there, so a voice that people will recognize when they're flipping through the channels?
I hope so. I hope they haven't forgotten me, and that's the idea, to do some play-by-play. I'm also senior advisor. I really don't quite know what that means, other than I'll be happy to help some of these younger cats that are trying to learn their way as far as being an administrator or a booker or a talent relations guy, whatever it may be. Everything's new here. So at least my experiences over the years, I can help the younger guys. Well, you might not want to do that, or you could consider this, or whatever. Just help them kind of get their thing going. So senior advisor, again, whatever the hell that means.
A friend of mine, he's also a wrestler. His name is Thomas Dubois, part of a great tag team right now. He tells me the story about his father, whose father was from Montreal, was a big fan of yours. And he said when he saw you face Bill Goldberg, because you faced Goldberg very early into his career.
Yes.
And he said there was a match with you and Goldberg, it wasn't very long, and he said, you know, I hate this company. How could they have Haku lose to this Goldberg guy? How could they have him lose that quickly? This is nonsense. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about working with Bill Goldberg that early on.
Bill Goldberg was, you know, as you all know, the best was coming in out of that time, you know, and he was the new great that we look for to build up in the company. So, you know, with Goldberg, you know, my goodness, if you look at it, how many times I wrestled Goldberg? Because that's something that I respect of him, you know. We went at it. Each other, you know, that's how he believed in me and that's how I believe in him, you know. We beat the heck out of each other, and after that, you know, it's like rugby. I grew up with rugby. After that, you know, okay, let's have a beer. But, you know, that's the type of person he was, you know. He never complained. I never complained about, you know, beat the heck out of each other. So, you know, that's what happened with Goldberg, you know, at the beginning there. And he was going from one to how many hundreds of wrestlers that he went through to, you know, and still unbeaten. So, you know, that was Goldberg then.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's in just about every sport, when you can go in there and you have two forces that are going against each other, right, that neither side is complaining, giving everything they can, taking the hits, whether it be rugby, wrestling, hockey, football. Right. I think that makes for the most exciting presentation to the fans there. In getting to work with Bill Goldberg, he's not one of the only tougher people you worked with. I think they also were positioning you to do something with Tank Abbott at one point too.
Yes.
Him coming in from the UFC.
You know, those guys, you know, Tank, and of course in Japan with all those guys that came in, you know, from MMA, it was UFC?
It was
then,
UFC,
yeah, UFC then, you know, Seven and all of them, you know. It was something that we admire was different, you know, from us. And, you know, yeah, Tank was a tough son of a gun, you know, but hey, this is wrestling. Pro wrestling is our dojo, now, you know, so, you know, it was good that they come in there, yeah.
You wrestled Ric Flair fairly early on too.
Yeah, that was crazy. Ric Flair, my first match against him was where I debuted, like 6 months after I debuted, was at Daytona Beach Oceanfront Center, which is still there. People still wrestle there, down there. And I'll never forget Ric Flair coming in with the custom suit and the designer shades and the limo and the Rolex and diamond rings, and I was like, oh man, I want to be like him. And we had an hour Broadway. I don't know how he got me through that match at that my level of experience, but he carried me through a 1 hour Broadway. I didn't know he called a sunset flip. I didn't even know what a sunset flip was at that point.
Was he the heel in that match, or were you?
You know, I was a heel at the time, and he was a heel, but the crowd, Rick turned the crowd against him, and so the crowd there, I would say, was definitely for me.
Heel versus heel, 6 months into the business, going an hour, that's
crazy.
That is insane. But you
God bless Nate.
Yeah.
Man, take a guy with that inexperienced as I was and get me through an hour of Broadway. I don't know how he did that. He's unbelievable.
Did you hit it off with him right away, but behind the scenes?
Oh yeah, I was Mr. Flair, sir, and I was like a sponge. And he gave me some advice afterwards. I didn't realize he'd gone back and put in a really ran and raved about me back in Charlotte at the time where the Crockett's were in NWA wrestling, which led to me eventually, less than 6 months later, making my debut there. But that was all Rick going back and talking to Dusty and the Crockett family and saying, you got to take a look at this guy.
Did you ever party with Ric Flair? I'm guessing you must have gone out with him.
Definitely. Rick is one of a kind. So he was 24/7. He sometimes hanging out with Rick, you almost felt like you didn't sleep at all or more than a couple hours, because we'd train in the afternoons, wrestle at night, and a lot of times have to travel, fly in the morning, and go. So if you went out and got out of the building at midnight after you get showered and got out, and we're out at all, it was already 3, 4 in the morning, and we'd go out, party a little bit, and grab a meal or something. My gosh, sometimes I feel like I didn't sleep for days at a time with Nate. He was a blast to hang out with.
You had a very famous backstage fight with Iron Mike Sharpe. What was that all about?
Oddly enough, I've heard you've asked that to a lot of wrestlers. Honky Tonk Man,
Hillbilly Jim said something about it.
I just seen Hillbilly Jim's, and I watched Greg Valentine said something about it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that's the way they said it. That's not the way it happened, because they weren't there. The only one that was there was Hillbilly Jim. I remember Hillbilly Jim being there, and he didn't say it right either. And he's a great guy, good guy, real good guy. Really liked him. He was not a troublemaker at all. And I was in the ring with Mike. We were in Detroit, Michigan at I think Hillbilly Jim said Cobo Hall.
We were one of those two buildings.
Joe Louis Arena.
Joe Louis, okay.
Joe Louis Arena, and Mike and I were on. It was a TV taping, and we were on like 5th, something like that. It wasn't no main event whatsoever. He was a jobber for me, and he said, Vince came in and said, look, you guys only got 2 or 3 minutes. Figure it out quick. You guys are going on next. I said, Mike, why don't you just do this? Why don't you just jump me, beat the shit out of me, and then go adjust your gimmick, and then go with that big one, and I'll duck under it and put you in the full Nelson. He goes, no, hey, I got more experience than you. I'll fucking call it out there. I said, Mike, we got 2 or 3 minutes. And so he didn't want to do that. We got out there, and we locked up, and he started hammering me in the back of the head. You know, I mean, hammering me, man. And Mike was a real tough guy, you know, and he goes, no, just go down. I said, what do you mean go down? He said, go down. I said, I'm not going down. And he goes, Vince wants you to go down. So Vince set him on me. He says, go down. He was supposed to beat the shit out of me. Because I had gotten an argument with Vince a couple days earlier, called him a cocksucker and all kinds of stuff, you know. And so anyway, he hit me, and I just put him in the full Nelson and just threw him down. And I think he rolled to the floor, but he got right back up, didn't sell it. And so Blackjack Lanza was there. And when I went outside, I said, get your fucking ass back to the dressing room, you know, because I didn't want to do nothing in the ring. We got back in the dressing room, and I told everybody, I said, you make a squared circle because we're going to fight, me and Mike Sharpe. And Mike Sharpe says, I've been wanting to try you because he's a Canadian national champion or something. So he gets in his stance, in his boxing stance, and he started throwing jabs under me, and I'm kind of moving. And I said, Mike, and he throws this roundhouse right. He threw the first punch. I did not throw the first punch. So he throws his first punch, and I went under it and caught him with a perfect left hook, dropped him, left him alone. I told him to stay down. He got back up. I grabbed him by the hair, and I hit him with like hockey, about 6 uppercuts in a row, dropped him. He started to get back up like an idiot. I football kicked him with my... At that time, I don't know who it was. I think it was Bob Orton. I'm not sure. I can't say for sure it was Bob Orton, because he may deny it. Somebody jumped on me from the back, and Harley Race took that person by the throat and grabbed him and shoved him up against the wall. At that time, Mike had a pool of blood about like this coming out. I didn't mean to hurt him that bad. I love Mike. It's just shit that happens, Hannibal, in the business. You know what I'm talking about. And it was Vince's fault. But Vince fired me over it. And so I went up to talk to Vince, and I go up to talk to Vince, and Mike's in the office. I didn't even know Mike was in there. At 2 o'clock, I was supposed to be there. I got there a little late, and Mike was up there. And, well, you're fired, you know that. I said, well, shit, you won't tell me who I am. I wanted to know if you're my brother or not anyway, so go fuck you anyway. And Mike Sharpe goes, no, come back. And Mike went to the hospital after that, and says, I started the fight. It was me. To Vince. So Mike saved my position, you know, so I was really felt horrible because it was a pretty brutal beating, man. And when he died, I know he died a little while ago, and I felt bad about that. I don't mean to ever hurt none of the boys. I love the boys, and it's just something that happened, you know.
Was that the only locker room incident you were involved with? No,
I just love the boys. But see, when it's a work, there's a lot of guys that don't want to do jobs, man.
Yeah.
And that's
trust me, I know.